My name is James Brew. I have a background in economic development, working in emerging markets. This includes work in conflict and post-conflict countries. I have an academic background in military history, having studied at King's College London and the University of New South Wales. In 2018, I attended the Anzac Day ceremony at the Citadel in Amman, Jordan. Whilst there, I realised how little was being discussed about Jordan in World War I. My subsequent study revealed that the great emphasis was on T. Lawrence and the Arab Revolt to the east, and to the west, Lord Allenby and his march towards Damascus. As an output of my research, I came across the use of the dummy horse as a camouflage ruse that was very successful, and this dummy horse project with John is a direct output of that research.
Allenby was a master of deception. To cover his plans for a major assault on Ottoman positions on the Mediterranean coast of Palestine, Allenby made a great show of planning a third attack on Amman. While his troops were not engaged in basic training to prepare them for the approaching campaign, Allenby had them building life-size models of horses in wood and canvas, 15,000 in all. Little by little, under cover of darkness, he began to transfer cavalry and infantry units from the Jordan Valley and the Judean hills to the coast, where they were billeted in camouflage tents to prevent German aircraft from observing them. The wood and canvas remounts were left to take the place of the real horses, while soldiers drove mule-drawn sleighs across the dry ground of the Jordan Valley to simulate the dust of cavalry manoeuvres.
My name is John Kelly, and I'm an English, Irish and Australian artist. I want to bring to your attention a little-known event during World War I from an artist's perspective in 2022. Back in 1917, the absurdist Dada art movement was created in Europe as a direct reaction to the war. Dada artists often used found objects that were repurposed and exhibited as fine art. One such protagonist was Marcel Duchamp with his infamous urinal made in 1917. A year later, in 1918, using all sorts of found material, soldiers created 15,000 dummy horses in the biblical lands of Arabia in the Jordan Valley. All these dummies needed to do was cast shadows to fool the German biplanes flying at 10,000 feet. 100 years later, in February 2019, the historian James Brew brought to my attention the dummy horse history that he had discovered whilst living in Jordan. James shared this via photographs and book references of this obscure history. His research was my artistic road to Damascus moment that resulted in another radical turn in my art practice. Just as back in 1918, in 2020 during COVID-19, I found materials on my property here in Ireland to make a contemporary sculpture based on these little-known and overlooked dummy horses of World War I. This sculpture includes 2 portable painting easels, canvas sacks, a horse, skull, straw bandages and ropes. After putting these together, they have now been transformed into bronze.
Lawrence's agents began buying up large quantities of horse feed, dropping hints that they were required for the British cavalry. The most famous of the hoodwinking ruses was the construction of dummy horses. 15,000 of them were erected in the Jordan Valley area. They had been used there in smaller numbers earlier in the summer, purely so as to attract enemy aircraft from the real horse lines. They were made of canvas stuffed with straw, bamboo and wooden poles, many of them with real horse rugs and real nose bags upon their dummy heads. In fact, our pilots reported that sacks stuffed with brushwood cast in the strong sunlight just as deep a shadow and were effective enough to cozen from the air.
It is strange but true, the word Dada is French for rocking horse or hobby horse, which adds another humorous art reference to this endeavour to make an artwork with a contemporary relevance that links us back into the history that has made us. That a form of data helped win the Great War seems absurd at first, however, may well be true. To quote from W.T. Massey's book Allenby's Final Triumph in Chapter 7, Camouflaging an Army, he states, "Just where cavalry had been encamped, one saw dummy horse lines and camps looking doubtless from the air precisely as they had appeared for months. 4 sticks with an army blanket slung between them must have resembled a horse when an observer looked down from an aeroplane, skimming above the valley at a height of 10,000 feet. The dummy horse lines answered so well that an enemy air reconnaissance report dated September 17th, found among the Lehman von Sanders papers at Nazareth, said far from there being any diminution in the cavalry in the Jordan Valley, there was evidence of 23 more squadrons.